Did you see what Patrick Mahomes did last night?
Yeah, this son of a bitch.
Did you see what happened?
Scumbag.
What the hell?
What is he doing? Jey Uso, obviously, the yeet man himself.
Yeah.
Because to the house yeet, yeet, goddamn. To the house yeet, yeet, god, you get it.
Right.
He's yeeting all over everywhere.
Always.
Multiple times.
Everybody's yeeting with him. I mean, we're in Kansas City last night, whole place yeeting.
Place was soaked.
The week before that, we were in bingo. Can't even do it.
Oh, the week before it, that was the week of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
There it is, yeah.
All right. These things all.
Did you see what Patrick Mahomes did last night? I mean, those early turnovers swing the momentum of the game. Just didn't play to my standard. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. Something shifted last night, and if you're an NFL fan who pays attention to the energy of this league, you felt it immediately. Because this wasn't just another headline. This wasn't just another sports debate clip floating around the internet. What we just watched unfold sits right at the intersection of power, pride, and the future of the quarterback position in the National Football League. Think about the name at the center of this moment for a second. Patrick Mahomes. 3 Super Bowl rings. The face of the NFL. The quarterback every young player gets compared to before they've even taken 10 real snaps in this league. When Mahomes speaks, it doesn't just echo through Kansas City, it echoes across the entire football world. Analysts dissect it. Fans clip it. Players hear it. So when Mahomes made those comments about Shedeur Sanders a few weeks ago, people listened. And let's be honest here, the tone of that moment mattered. It wasn't some screaming hot take segment on a debate show. It was subtle, controlled. The kind of answer veteran quarterbacks give when they're trying to sound respectful, but still make it clear where they believe the hierarchy of the league stands. The message underneath it was simple: prove it first. And in the NFL, that phrase carries weight. Because this league has always been brutal to young quarterbacks. Every rookie comes in with hype. Every rookie gets compared to legends. And most of them, they crash into the wall of reality the moment the games start counting. So when Mahomes said what he said, a lot of people nodded along. Yeah, let the kid prove it first. That's the standard. But here's the part nobody expected. The narrative didn't slowly change over years. It didn't evolve over a few seasons of highlight throws and playoff runs. No, it flipped overnight, because suddenly the same name that was being questioned, the same young quarterback people kept saying needed to wait his turn, is now dominating headlines across the entire sports world. Not just football headlines, global headlines. And that's when things started to feel different. Because when something like this happens, it forces everyone to reevaluate what they thought they understood about a player. Fans start digging up old clips. Analysts start walking back old takes, and those moments, those little comments that once sounded harmless, suddenly look very different under a brighter spotlight. And that's where we are right now. This isn't about disrespect or beef or internet drama. This is about something deeper. This is about the moment when the league realizes the next generation isn't waiting for permission anymore. And if you've been watching football long enough, you know these moments don't happen often. Think about when the torch started shifting from Peyton Manning to Tom Brady. Think about when Lamar Jackson forced the entire league to rethink what a quarterback could look like. Think about when Jalen Hurts went from doubted prospect to MVP candidate right in front of everyone's eyes. The NFL changes fast, sometimes faster than the stars who dominate it expect. And that's what makes this situation so fascinating. Because Patrick Mahomes isn't just any quarterback commenting on a young player. He's the standard, the mountain everyone else is trying to climb. Which means when the mountain speaks, people listen. But now something unusual has happened. The story didn't end with Mahomes' comment. It kept going. And suddenly, the player who was supposed to prove himself quietly just made the entire sports world stop and look. So now we're left with a question that every fan, every analyst, and every player in this league is starting to ask. Did Patrick Mahomes underestimate Shedeur Sanders? Or did the entire football world? Let's slow this down for a second and really talk about where Shedeur Sanders actually stands in the NFL right now. Because if you only follow the headlines, you'd think this guy just appeared out of nowhere. But if you've been paying attention to football over the last few years, you know that's not true at all. Shedeur Sanders didn't walk into this league as some anonymous rookie trying to fight for a roster spot. He walked in with a spotlight already locked on him, And that spotlight started long before he ever took a snap on an NFL field. Think back to what happened at Colorado. The entire college football world was watching that program. Stadiums packed, television numbers exploding, social media clips everywhere. And right in the middle of that movement was Shedeur calm in the pocket, throwing lasers, leading drives, and carrying himself with the kind of confidence you usually only see from quarterbacks who've already been in the league for 5 or 6 years. And that's where the conversation around him started to split. Some fans looked at Shedeur and said, "That's the future." They saw the poise, the accuracy, the leadership. They saw a quarterback who didn't panic when the pressure came. A guy who could take hits, stand tall, and still deliver the ball exactly where it needed to go. But the critics? They saw something different. They saw hype. They saw a famous name, a huge social media following, cameras everywhere. And they started asking the same question we've heard 1,000 times in this league. Is the attention bigger than the player? And that question matters in the NFL more than anywhere else. Because the quarterback room at the top of this league is brutal. You're not just competing with average players, you're competing with monsters. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. These guys didn't just arrive and take over. They had to fight through doubt, injuries, playoff, heartbreak, media criticism. They had to prove, over and over again, that they belonged in that elite tier. So when a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders enters the conversation, people aren't just evaluating his arm talent. They're evaluating everything. Can he handle the pressure? Can he lead grown men in an NFL locker room? Can he perform when the entire stadium is against him? And here's the interesting part. Despite all the noise, despite all the skepticism, the momentum around Shedeur never really slowed down. If anything, it kept growing. You could see it in the way teammates talked about him. You could see it in practice clips, the timing, the confidence, the command of the offense. You could see it in those moments when the pocket collapses and most young quarterbacks panic. Shedeur doesn't panic. He resets. He keeps his eyes downfield. He trusts the play. That's not hype. That's quarterback DNA. And slowly, people around the league started noticing those details. The calm leadership, the composure under pressure, the confidence that doesn't crack when the internet starts yelling. We've seen this story before. When Jalen Hurts entered the league, people questioned everything about him. His arm, his mechanics, his ceiling. And now look at him, an MVP candidate who took his team to the Super Bowl. Quarterback development in this league doesn't happen in straight lines. It happens through moments, through pressure, through proving people wrong when the lights get brightest. And what makes Shedeur Sanders so fascinating right now is that he's not just building a resume, he's building something bigger, a following, a belief system, a movement. And in the NFL, when a young quarterback starts building that kind of momentum, the entire league starts paying attention. Because movements don't stay quiet for long. And what happens next in this story is exactly why. Pressure has a funny way of revealing who a quarterback really is. And if you've been watching the rise of Shedeur Sanders closely, you know one thing for sure, the pressure around this kid has been insane from the very beginning. Because for every fan who believed in him, there was always another voice waiting to question him. Is he really that good? Or is this just hype? You heard it everywhere. Talk shows, podcasts, comment sections, even inside NFL circles. Some people looked at Shedeur Sanders and didn't see a future franchise quarterback. They saw a brand. They saw cameras following him everywhere. They saw the Sanders name, a name that already carries massive weight in football history. And in this league, that kind of spotlight can make people uncomfortable. Because the NFL has always had this unwritten rule when it comes to young quarterbacks. Respect is earned slowly, quietly, through years of grinding and proving yourself against the best defenders on the planet. So when a player enters the league, already carrying attention, already building a following, already commanding headlines, the league reacts. Sometimes with skepticism, sometimes with resistance, and that's exactly where the criticism around Shedeur started growing louder. People said the fame was bigger than the football. They said the spotlight was arriving too early. They said he needed to prove it first. And that brings us right back to Patrick Mahomes. Because when Mahomes made that comment, subtle as it was, it landed differently than people expected. When a random analyst questions a young quarterback, It's just another opinion. But when the most powerful quarterback in the league hints that a young player still needs to prove himself, that carries weight. The entire league hears it. Players hear it. Coaches hear it. Fans definitely hear it. And suddenly, the narrative around that young quarterback becomes even louder. See? Even Mahomes isn't convinced yet. Now look, let's be fair here. This isn't necessarily some villain story. Elite athletes have always tested the next generation. We've seen it in every era of football. Veterans protect the standard of the position. They push younger players to earn their place. Sometimes that challenge is direct, sometimes it's subtle, but it's always there. Think about how rookies entering the league used to talk about facing Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. Those guys didn't just dominate the field, they set the tone for what greatness was supposed to look like. Mahomes is that guy now, which means when he speaks about quarterbacks, it isn't just commentary. It's a benchmark. And that's why this moment mattered so much. Because whether Mahomes intended it or not, his comment reinforced the exact narrative critics had been pushing about Shedeur Sanders all along. The kid still has to prove it. He's not there yet. He's outside the elite circle. Now imagine carrying that around every single day. Every throw analyzed, every interview dissected, every mistake replayed 1,000 times on social media. Fans watching, critics waiting, analysts ready to say, "I told you so." The moment something goes wrong, that kind of pressure crushes a lot of players. But sometimes it does the opposite. Because when a quarterback carries that much doubt around him, when the league keeps saying, "Prove it," the moment he finally does, it doesn't just land, it explodes. And what happened next in this story? That's exactly the kind of explosion the NFL world never saw coming. And then, everything flipped. Not slowly, not quietly. Overnight. One headline, and suddenly the entire football world was looking at Shedeur Sanders in a completely different light. Because this wasn't just another endorsement deal. It wasn't another athlete signing with a sneaker brand or showing up in a commercial during halftime. This was bigger. The kind of deal that makes executives stop what they're doing and read the numbers twice. The kind of partnership that doesn't just move money, it moves attention across the entire global sports market. And the moment the news dropped, the narrative around Shedeur Sanders changed instantly. The same player critics kept saying needed to prove it suddenly became one of the most commercially powerful young athletes in football. Think about how crazy that shift is. A few weeks earlier, people were still debating whether the hype around him was justified. Analysts were still questioning if the spotlight around his name was arriving too early. Then this deal hits the internet. And now the entire sports world is paying attention. Not just NFL fans. Investors, global media outlets, international sports markets. Because here's the truth most people don't realize about deals like this. They don't happen by accident. Global investment funds don't throw money at athletes because of vibes. They don't build partnerships around players just because they're trending on social media. They study impact. They study markets. They study long-term cultural influence. When groups like that invest in an athlete, they're not thinking about next Sunday's game. They're thinking about the next decade. And somewhere inside those boardrooms, inside those investment meetings, people looked at Shedeur Sanders and saw something bigger than just a quarterback. They saw reach. They saw influence. They saw a personality capable of connecting with audiences across borders, across languages, across cultures. And most importantly, they saw longevity. Because the most valuable athletes in global sports aren't just great players. They're symbols. They represent eras. They represent movements. And suddenly, the same young quarterback people were questioning just became a centerpiece of one of the most ambitious sports investments we've seen in years. Now here's where the story gets really interesting. Because the internet never forgets. The moment that deal went public, fans immediately started digging through old clips, interviews, talk show segments, every moment where Shedeur Sanders had been doubted. And yes, that Mahomes clip came right back into the spotlight. You could see it everywhere. Side-by-side comparisons, old comments, new headlines, and the irony of the situation was impossible to ignore. The quarterback who was told to prove it first just proved his value on a stage bigger than anyone expected. Not through trash talk, not through social media drama, through results, through opportunity. through a deal that instantly elevated his status across the sports world. And that's when the energy around this whole situation shifted. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about potential anymore. It wasn't just about hype. Now there was validation. Now there was proof that the belief around Shedeur Sanders wasn't just coming from fans or media personalities. It was coming from global power players who see sports differently than the rest of us. And when something like that happens, when a young quarterback goes from question prospect to global headline in the blink of an eye, the entire league starts paying attention. But the real question now isn't about the deal itself. The real question is what this moment means for the future. Because if Shedeur Sanders is already shaking the league off the field like this, imagine what happens if he starts doing it on Sundays too. This is the moment where the story gets bigger than one comment, bigger than one deal, and honestly, bigger than just Patrick Mahomes versus Shedeur Sanders. Because when you zoom out and really look at what just happened, you start to realize something important about the NFL. This league never stands still. Every decade, sometimes every few years, the balance of power shifts. A new generation arrives. New personalities take over the spotlight, and the players who were once seen as the future suddenly realize the future has already arrived. We've seen this story before. There was a time when the league belonged to Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Those guys set the standard for what greatness looked like at quarterback. Every young player coming into the NFL had to measure themselves against that level of excellence. Then the next wave arrived. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and eventually, Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes didn't just enter the league, he changed it. The way he plays the position, the creativity, the confidence, the ability to turn impossible plays into highlights. He forced the entire NFL to rethink what a modern quarterback could be. And because of that, Mahomes became the standard, the mountain everyone else had to climb. But here's the thing about mountains. Eventually, someone new starts climbing them. And that's where Shedeur Sanders enters this story. Now let's be clear about something. Nothing that just happened takes away from Patrick Mahomes' legacy. 3 Super Bowl rings don't disappear because of one headline. His place among the greatest quarterbacks of this era is already secure. But what this moment shows us is something the NFL teaches over and over again. No throne stays untouched forever. New stars rise, new leaders emerge. And sometimes the players who face the most doubt early in their careers end up becoming the ones who reshape the entire conversation. Think about Jalen Hurts for a second. A few years ago, people were questioning whether he could even be a long-term starter. Now, he's leading one of the most dangerous teams in football and playing at an MVP level. That's how fast things can change in this league. And when you look at Shedeur Sanders right now, you can see the early signs of that same kind of trajectory. Confidence, leadership, a personality that doesn't shrink under pressure. And now, a level of global attention that most young quarterbacks don't reach until much later in their careers. That combination is powerful because the modern NFL isn't just about what happens between the lines anymore. Quarterbacks today are brands. They're leaders. They're cultural figures who influence how the league connects with fans all over the world. And if Shedeur Sanders continues growing the way he has been both on the field and off it, we might be witnessing the early stages of something much bigger than a rookie quarterback story. We might be witnessing the beginning of the next era, an era where the new generation of quarterbacks doesn't just compete with the legends of today, they challenge them. And that's what makes this moment so fascinating, because years from now, when people look back at Shedeur Sanders' career, they might point to this exact moment, the criticism, the headlines, the deal that shocked everyone, and say that was the turning point. That was the moment the world realized this kid wasn't just hype. He was the future. And if that future plays out the way a lot of fans are starting to believe it will, then the entire NFL might have just watched the first spark of the next great quarterback era. And the craziest part? This story is only just getting started.